everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. So for today's video, I have my first fall video, and I know we are nowhere near fall, but Dollar Tree has already put out all of their fall goodies. With Dollar Tree in all of these stores now, if you don't get it quick, you don't get it at all. So I just wanted to share some crafts so that those who want to start early can start early. And this video is sponsored by Cricut. A big thank you to them. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Once you hit subscribe, we instantly become best friends.
Did we just become best friends? Yep!
And please click on that notification bell. YouTube may or may not let you know when I post a video. But in case they don't, follow me on Instagram and all my other socials. I always post what I'm up to. And let's go ahead and get started.
For the first one, I'm going to be using this vase from Dollar Tree. Now I'm using this Deco Art suede paint, but you can get the same effect by grabbing a terracotta color and baking soda and mixing it up until it's a nice thick consistency. This is what I used on my bunnies. So for this, I used the suede paint because it's what I had on hand at the time. The first coat is a little sloppy, but for the second and third, I did end up going in one direction so that it looked like terracotta. This is what it looks like in different lighting, and now I'm just going to grab some Dollar Tree nautical rope, and you don't have to add this. You can keep it as is or do whatever you want to it. I just wanted to add a little piece of flair, so I hot glued it into place, making sure that I hot glued the end of the rope. And now I'm going to use these Dollar Tree floral pieces. I really love how they look, so I'm going to cut them down to fit the vase. These floral pieces have a very visible stick in them, so I'm going to cover that using some foam pumpkins, which are from other floral pieces from Dollar Tree. For the next one, I'm going to be using these Dollar Tree signs. This is actually a makeover. I've made over the same craft quite a few times on my channel. Dollar Tree does carry vertical signs every season, so if you can't find the beware sign, then definitely use something else. They will always have something that's sort of like a welcome sign. So once I am removing the glitter, I'm going to wipe this down and vacuum it up. Now, the reason I'm doing this is for the popsicle sticks to adhere and so that I can paint the back. But you really don't have to do that. I'm going to use some lightweight spackle from the hardware section of Dollar Tree, and I'm going to cover up those little holes. Now with some popsicle sticks, I'm going to go ahead and align this and then start hot gluing popsicle sticks all the way up so that this does not budge. You can use wood glue, but since it doesn't dry instantly and this sort of lifts, I would recommend hot glue. I don't always recommend it for wood projects, definitely for this. Now I'm going to flip it and I'm going to give it a coat of vintage white. I highly recommend using acrylic paint, chalk paint, but spray paint on material like this usually tends to run, so keep that in mind if you were thinking of spray painting. Once it's dry, I added the border first, so you can do this with Jenga pieces from the Dollar Tree. I've added the dimensions on the screen, but I actually ended up using these square dowel type things from the hardware store. They were super cheap, and I like the look of them a little better. I did add this with Gorilla Wood Glue. As I mentioned before, this is a makeover. This was what the sign was initially, then it was this, and then finally this, which is what we're making over today. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of that, and it is going to leave some hot glue behind. I'm going to go ahead and remove the glue and then sand it down so that it is nice and smooth and I can add my new design. I'm using an SVG for this, which I will link below. It's from Design Bundles, but make sure that you measure your surface. I'm also using my Cricut Maker 3, but you can complete this project using whatever Cricut you have on hand, or there's many other methods that I've shown on my channel to complete this project without a die cutting machine. So I'm going to cut down the excess because I want to make sure that I save it for scraps, and then I'm going to weed this out. I'm transferring it over, and the reason I didn't paint those spots that were obviously lifted from the previous design is because I felt it was a lot better to just spot treat it. I really didn't want to add fresh paint and then have my transfer tape lifted up, so spot treating made it look fantastic since I had the original paint. For the next craft, I'm going to be using this picture frame from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to remove the glass and the insides, but I am going to save the cardboard backing. Now I'm going to paint it using that same vintage white. I don't really like to spray paint these types of picture frames because it always ends up dripping because of the material, but if you are going to, make sure you sand it first. This is also a remake of one of my old crafts, so at the time, this was the only arrow that Dollar Tree carried. Now they have wood ones in the Crafter Square section. You would be following the exact same steps if you can find the wood ones. If not, then they will always have something like this. Moving on to the rest of the frame, I'm going to use that backing that we saved, and you can use these like paint sticks that they give you for free at any hardware store, or you can just buy large popsicle sticks. The backing of the frame comes in handy because it's the exact same size as the inside of the frame. So I'm going to use that to make my mark on the popsicle sticks, and I'm going to cut those down now that I have the perfect measurement. I used a saw for this, so I did tie them all together, and then I'm going to just go ahead and sand those rough pieces. They won't be seen, but I just didn't want to have any splinters. So now I am going to undo them and stain them. You don't have to use real stain. You can use watered down brown paint. Some people use coffee. At the time, I used regular stain, and this is the shade Dark Walnut. I'm adding them back into my frame. The back isn't stained because it is going to be covered up, but if you're not going to cover it, then by all means stain the back. I'm just going to go ahead and add some hot glue so it doesn't move around, and then add my backing back in. So this is what it looks like, and now I'm going to get back to that arrow. I'm going to measure, and this is the SVG that I used. I will also link that below. Now, because I like to spruce up my signs over and over and over again, I am using removable vinyl. This is smart vinyl, which is why I'm not using a matte, and it's the sample that came with the Maker 3. So I'm just cutting this down, and of course, I am cutting it down even further so I can save the rest for scraps. I just don't want to be wasteful. I really like working with removable vinyl because the weighting process is a lot faster. For the transfer tape, I'm actually going to cut that down as well, using that decal as a stencil so that I have the exact same size. So I made this pretty much the exact same size as the arrow, So I have to really line this up well. And after putting this on, I realized I should have had my arrow facing the other direction. But I guess it sort of makes sense since Harvest Festival is this way and then the rides and all that are that way. I'm just trying to make myself feel better. If you like the arrow pointing in the other direction, make sure you just flip it. And I am hot gluing instead of E6000ing because I like to reuse my signs. No need to have 300 signs, and this is what it looks like. For my favorite one, I am using the hula hoop and pool noodle method. I have used this so many times on my channel. I think it's so much sturdier than just using a pool noodle. The first time I did it was with my little gingerbread wreath, which was so cute. And then I did it once again with the dried oranges, which I really love. So here I am, back again. This is not a recycled craft. I still do have the other wreaths. So you're going to grab some tape after carefully cutting down your pool noodle in the middle, and then you're just going to wedge your hula hoop into that cut that you've made. This is one of the smaller hula hoops from Dollar Tree, so you are going to need 2 pool noodles and you're going to have some left over. So I just measured it out and then I cut that down. I chose the color yellow because my floral is pretty close to it, and I really didn't want to spend extra money wrapping this in burlap or wrapping this in some sort of fabric so you don't see it. So I chose yellow because it was easier to conceal. I should have found yellow tape or clear tape, but I didn't have any, so orange it is. Dollar Tree has these amazing floral pieces right now. They're like a very dusty, almost, I don't know how to describe it, but they've got these little pumpkin pieces. Now what I'm doing is I'm just moving the leaves, some up, some down, and then I'm just going to pierce the foam directly. This is another reason why I didn't want to cover this with any type of material, because this makes it really easy to just pop it in there and go. So for every floral piece, I'm readjusting the leaves so that I can have more coverage, and then I'm just poking that through. Now, this wreath was everything but my kitchen sink because I ran out of floral and Dollar Tree did not have any more. So I had to come up with something else because I had a nice gap once I finished adding the florals that I did. Originally, I didn't buy these flowers to use on this wreath, but thank goodness I did. These are also from Dollar Tree. They are new right now to the season, so I'm cutting them down and I'm trying to make them stretch. I'm covering up all those pieces, and whatever's poking through in the back, I'm cutting it down. But I'm still left with a pretty big gap. So before I move on, I'm going to take those pieces that are not exposed from the pics below, and I'm just going to rearrange them so I can see all of the nice colors pop. So this was me desperately trying to find a solution. I took some rope and I wrapped it around. Dollar Tree does have nautical rope. However, I used rope, I believe this is from Walmart, just because it was a lot thinner. I also found these pumpkins from last year. They were from Dollar Tree as well. They have them this year as well. And I popped that in just to give it like a little detail. I really like the white. I wish I had more of these pumpkins. So my solution was to grab one of these little boxes. I wish this was a wider box, but it's not. So it does look a little small in the middle, but I really do like how it ended up. To give it more stability, I added 2 pieces of rope and hot glued it to the back so it doesn't slouch forward. And then I added some foam. If you're keeping this outside, you want to drill some holes so that water can just drain through. And now I'm going to add some Dollar Tree pumpkins. To add this, I am basically sticking a toothpick into them and stabbing that in there. I'm covering the rest with the rest of my pink flowers, and then I'm adding rope to the side just to make it look a little wider. And look at this beauty. So that's it for me. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know which one is your favorite. A big thank you to Cricut for sponsoring today's video. And as usual, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.